Welcome to Table Scraps.
Welcome to Table Scraps, everyone.
Everyone. I was talking to you specifically.
Oh, well, thank you, Ben. Thank you for inviting me for Table Scraps Part 2.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited. The last time we did Table Scraps, it was kind of like our pilot. We had the chairs sitting over there, and it looked much jankier. And now it's like, it's less janky. It's still janky.
Janky Plus.
Janky Plus. For instance, we have this table here, right? You know, we have this table where we can put our drinks, but guess what? Our glasses are my glass of water is all the way across the table.
And my glass is upstairs.
So we just have a table and it's see-through. So when you look at it, it's not attractive. The set's still a work in progress.
We are a work in progress.
We are a work in progress. So
we take the scraps.
All the scraps, all the table scraps. I like your thematic.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you're gaming, game day. Okay, I want to talk about tardiness.
Oh.
Tardiness or like interruptions.
Tardiness or interruptions. Okay.
So everyone's supposed to be there at 8 o'clock.
Everyone's supposed to be there at 8.
Okay, you're running late. Let's say you're running late. Okay.
In this reality, I'm running late. In this
reality, you're running late because you actually are very on time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for...
Although ironically not tonight.
Not tonight,
But it actually is okay because we took forever to set this all up and still had a Janky Plus set.
Janky Plus.
Okay, so game night starts at 8 o'clock. You're running late. Let's say it takes 30 minutes to get there.
Okay.
And you have left at 7:40. So...
The physics of situations, you're going to be at least 10 minutes late.
10 minutes late. So what do you do and what do you expect?
I'm a person who believes in a 5-minute grace.
Okay.
So starting anything is 5 minutes after the thing.
Okay.
So that's just flat out. I think anything over 5 minutes, you should notify people.
And what does that notification look like?
I am a person who prefers something slightly self-mortifying. Like I'm the terrible person. I'm so sorry. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Even if it's for show.
Yes.
And to say that like this is my fault. I take accountability, and now I'm late. Right.
And what are you hoping to get from that? Are you hoping that they'll say, "Oh, it's okay, we'll wait for you," or are you hoping why do you need to do that? Like, why can't you just say, "Hey guys, I'm running late, so sorry, I'll be there at"? Do I say? Here's a question.
Yeah.
Knowing you will be there probably 10 minutes late, do you say I'm going to be there 10 minutes late, or do you say I'm going to be there probably about 5 minutes late, probably 4 or 5 minutes late, knowing you'll be there actually 10 minutes late?
I'm because in a former life, I was an engineer and I deal with facts or that can be conflated with facts, truth.
Okay.
I tend to express the truth value as I best can identify it. It has not gotten me far in life.
You're basically saying you're a truth teller, right? You would not tell a lie about your tardiness.
I'm not one who chooses to tell white lies unless it is going to benefit the person who receives it.
Okay.
So if the white lie is I want to be 10 minutes late, 5 minutes late, knowing that I'll be 10 minutes, but them knowing I'll be 5 minutes late will give me another grace of 5.
Yeah.
Then...
Because that's essentially what it does. If you say I'm going to be 5 minutes late, then what I think mentally what it does is for that, from 8 to 8:05, people are kind of bantering a little bit more or making jokes. And so, because they know they're not starting at 8 o'clock. So they're sort of making jokes and they're like, okay, well, Paul's supposed to be here at 8:05. I wonder where he is. And then your grace period starts. So... you've actually gotten 5 minutes of grace period value, I think, built into the fact, and you'll land right there at your grace period if all works well.
I think it depends on the person, though, because I think some people, I have been known to be oh, they said they'd be here at 8:10. It's 8:10. I am now irritated. It really comes down to, I suppose, cleanliness and time hygiene are actually very personal, and I do believe that you actually wind up
Time hygiene, or are you just saying time, comma, hygiene?
No, time hygiene. Like
Like the concept of a time hygiene.
Yeah, like my wife has poor time hygiene.
Okay.
Like she will push it,
Yes.
and she won't necessarily call. It'll be up to me to like make it on time, like whatever. Like for some reason, like she thinks that I have a time dilation device in the car where I can get from X to Y faster than the physics will normally allow.
Yes.
And then she'll go like, oh, I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Okay.
And she has a very mild form of this, where I know people who would be like half hours and hours
chronically,
and not just chronically, but like severely, like both in frequency and in intensity of lateness.
I really don't like that. Like I feel like I have room to grow in terms of punctuality. I think I'm fairly punctual, but I have noticed over the past, like, I would say a year, but it's probably been longer than that, if I'm being honest, is that I tend to be someone who's now like running like 5 to 10 minutes behind. There's certain things that I'm like very punctual about.
Sure.
But there have been a lot of times I've started to pick up the sense, especially in our group, that people are giving me a time that's like 10 minutes. They're building in the 10 minutes on me, and I can feel that. Oh yeah, I notice. So it's hard, but someone once said to me that people who run late are optimists. Have you heard that before?
I mean,
the idea is that you're optimistic that you can cram in all the stuff before you have to do something, and you're usually optimistic that you can do it, but it's usually not going to happen, which then causes you to be late. And I thought that was a very rosy way to make someone feel better about the fact that they were wasting other people's time.
Like it sounds like a great reframing of delusional.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate being late. So the fact that I do have this like weird nagging 5 to 10 minute thing, it bothers me. Although that being said, I think like I also feel like I have this weird I have this weird thing. It's a rule that I have not fully articulated, so we're going to like workshop it as we say it.
Sure.
In our group on Friday nights, our game group Tom in our group has like a standing Friday night game night. And a big part of that is that people often will gather for dinner ahead of game night. So game night starts at 8. Dinner usually is going to be at 6:30, right?
100%.
And I live in Hollywood, and dinner is usually going to be in Culver City, which
Trap City.
It's a trap city. Culver City, its own other issue, which is that it's like fast casual capital.
It's basically anti-Ben.
It's like everything is like, do you want to eat at Tender Greens, or do you want to eat at Sweet Green, or do you want to eat at like Dave's Hot Chicken? But like we have found a few gems in there, which is nice. But to get there on a Friday night is going to be about 45 minutes or so, right? So what that means is that on a Friday, to get ready for game night at 8 o'clock, you have to have everything done that you want to do on that Friday, for me, by basically 5:30, 5:40.
Okay.
And to me, I think that's very, very early to have everything done on a Friday. So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, if you show up late to the 8 p.m., that's shitty because 8 p.m. is when the games start. But like being 5 to 10 minutes late because you're still just trying to get the stuff in on the Friday you need to get done because you've finished doing your work for the week and you're like, okay, now I can do like that task I needed to do, or like do that workout I needed to get in. And it's like, oh my goodness, am I really going to sacrifice this task because it's going to make me 10 minutes late to a fast casual restaurant in Culver City? So I feel like tardiness rules for game night, like, do they still apply in the same way to like the game night preamble?
Well, see, it's interesting because
I mean, the answer is yes, of course, because other people are waiting for you. I get it.
Well, you have found a great solution that allows you to do your thing and mitigate this, and that is like, hey, Paul, would you like me to pick you up? Because we're on the.
I forced you to be late with me.
Yes, exactly.
That's the best.
You diffuse the lateness. It's quite like it's good game theory.
Yes. Well, because the thing is this is what I always find. This is the number one thing that makes me late, actually, is that usually I get that stuff done in time. There have definitely been times when I'm like, I just got out of the shower, got to race out. But what will often slow me down for really any game night is I think, ooh, I should bring a game tonight. And then next thing you know, you're like looking around at the games. And then you're like, oh, this would be a good game. And sometimes I do that earlier in the day because I'm like, let me get this done earlier so I'm not late later. But then what happens is I got to read those rules to refresh. So you read the rules. And when you're done reading the rules, oh shit, the workout I needed to get done. I need to work out. And like, you start to realize you're gonna have to make a sacrifice somewhere. And it's like, for me, sometimes it's just that 10 minutes.
It's like
on the way to Culver City.
It's like Trey, Dimitri, Mike, your 10 minutes is not worth mine.
You know what? Unfortunately, I think that's a sad reality that I'm having to face. Is that like
sorry.
I don't want to waste their time, but carving 10 minutes out of that dinner for me, well, is not as bad. However, if there's a reservation and there's a table line situation, I do honor that as best as I can. Like, if I'm late to that, it's not like I'm thinking, oh, whatever with their time. And I actually never am like, oh, whatever with their time. But if there's a reservation and I know it's like, oh, they're going to be in a situation where they're just like, that's a terrible situation to put a friend in when you have a group reservation and they can't seat you and people are waiting.
That's right.
I hate that.
Sure.
I hate that.
Sure.
I will never contribute to that if I have to.
But if like, you know, they're waiting 10 minutes outside of like Pompous Grill.
Yeah, where I know everyone can take a seat and start eating anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little bit more chill. And it's like not cool. That's totally bad etiquette.
Sure.
But like, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is I always try to be as prompt as possible for when games start. Sure. And I feel like I'm pretty good on that front.
Yeah, no.
But it's more like preamble stuff. If it's like, I think if like all the plans pre-gaming starts to bleed into like pre 6 p.m., I think it's like,
it's fair.
It's just more like it's understandable.
Like, I suppose I put it this way. I've played with you when you've had people come in the 45 minutes late. And that's
bad for two different reasons.
It's bad for many reasons.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, we still play with these people because they're delightful.
Yes, absolutely.
And they bring treats.
Yes. And there's some people who get there right on time where I'm like, oh God, I have to play with this person.
I'm sorry, Ben. I'm sorry.
I know. By the way, another thing is if I'm going to be running, if I know I'm really going to be doing a really late situation, I will often say, I'll meet you at games. Mm-hmm. And then people will often say, it's no big deal. Just come when you can come. And then it's like, that's a very nice thing. That's saying, saying, it's actually going the other way around where everyone's saying, we know that like, we're going to respect that you have something to do and we're not going to make you feel guilty about it.
Your presence is more important than your
even for 10 minutes.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, and because we're menches.
We are menches. Now, but getting back to the game part of this, because this is really veered into being late to a meal. Now, and by the way, if it's a group dinner, if it's a proper group dinner where the central activity of the evening is just restaurant, I do try my damnedest to be.
Sure.
But I guess that there's something about like the pre-game night dinner that's like, this isn't like the main event. So like, I don't know. Like,
look, I mean, like I would say that it depends on the group that you're with.
That's true.
Like, because I will easily deal with people being late to Pompous, or I will be much more irritated if it's something that requires reservations, or
like when we did a joint birthday party. Quote unquote. Basically, we just went to dinner at the restaurant before games, and I did the thing where I picked you up and I forced us both to be late to the thing that everyone ever showed up for us. So that's bad.
Yeah, it was funny.
That was bad. That was poor form on our part, and by our part, I mean my part. My part. Okay, but going back to what you just said about 45, someone shows up to games 45 minutes late. I don't like that.
Yeah, no. No, it's not great.
I don't like that. I don't think you should show up 45 minutes late to anything, to be honest.
Yeah, but at the same time, like sometimes we play games that require a certain number of people.
Yeah.
And they've said like, you know, hey, we'd like to join. And we want you to join. And then they come 45 some late and they'll bring like bagels. And I'm happy for that.
If they bring bagels, that helps a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Or they bring any kind of food helps mitigate. I don't know if it mitigates 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. No, it does mitigate for. I don't think it like cancels out 45 minutes.
Yeah, but I do feel like anytime someone frequently shows up, like regularly shows up 45 minutes late to a game night, they are going to go down on priority of people who I'm going to call.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Like,
Yeah,
because, especially if it's a big game, if you're doing like Twilight Imperium or an 18xx game, and you have to, you're going to be in for many hours. So if you have to wait 45 minutes on someone else, that's bad. That's a big no.
But from their perspective, like I would say, like, oh well, we're going to be here until midnight anyway.
Yeah,
what's starting?
Let me get my shit done.
Yeah, let me get my shit, and I'll bring bagels.
Yeah, that's true.
So percentage wise, is actually,
but there's a psychological effect.
100%.
Their logic may actually be correct, but there's a psychological effect that's kind of like for everyone who's waiting, like we're going to be here for so long, and you've just added time onto that.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
what people are thinking.
Well, I've known people who, well, I generally don't play with people who outside of your group that could be that late.
Right.
My
group, yes.
That's right. But but I do have groups where, like, or I've played with people who've wanted to just start the game and like and the catching up.
Another thing I was going to ask about. Which is like there is this period of time that's like the like, hey, how's it going? There's the chit chat,
Yep.
And so, like, how much time is appropriate for chit chat? Because here's what I also don't like: when someone shows up late and then they want to have the chit chat period.
Sure.
To me, I feel like you've kind of forfeited the chit chat period. But usually, when they come in late, they're usually in like a state of disarray. I feel like in some way, there's usually like a sorry, this just happened, or there was an issue, or I got stuck on a phone call. How's it going? Especially if they brought snacks and there's like the chaos of bags, whatever. So that usually, whenever there's like chaos, that usually leads to chit chat, which is, I get it, because it's like, it's weird to have someone just like walk in and then you start a game. I think sometimes
it can be. I think
how much chit chat is too much.
Well,
how much is too little?
See, I'm actually in it for the chit chat.
Okay,
and yes, I'm in it for the games as well. But like, if we were just to sit and talk forever, I would not think that is a.
You'd be happy.
Yeah, like I'm on like table scraps.
I mean, we're chit chatting now
about games.
Yeah, we're chit chatting right now. It's great.
But that said, I understand that a lot of people like really want, the gameplay, and I do too. This is not. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
And I think there's a right amount, but how should I say it in the best way? I'm a person who really just goes with the vibe of the group. I think if one person is dominating the chit chat and they're like continuing the chit chat and people are not wanting to, they want to start the game. I would just go like, okay, I think we should start now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I've seen people or I've heard of people who there's good chit chat going along and then he goes, are we gonna play? And
so it's all about like understanding the chit chat vibe.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes the chit chat is, as the kids would say, sometimes that chit chat is fire. Sometimes it's good chit chat. But actually, you know what I hate? Okay, I hate when someone comes in with like serious and sad chit chat. It's not that I can't handle.
Oh, this is very interesting.
It's not that I can't handle a serious discussion.
Sure.
And I like the opportunity to connect and bond and help someone in that situation. But what it means is that I feel like an asshole if I'm like, hey, so we should probably start the game.
That's right.
And because then what happens is the serious chit chat is always going to be long chit chat. And then I've had it happen a number of times where the plan was like some cool marquee game. And then it gets downgraded to something. Then it gets to downgraded to the, why don't we play something we all know? And then from there it goes into, well, what do we all know? And then it's like we're trying to figure out what we all know. And then next thing you know, it's like we're playing Azul. And Azul's a great game, but if I was planning on playing Men Nefer, it's a change of expectations for me.
Let's face it, like if you were rushing and you were driving across town to get to your Culver City dinner only 5 or 10 minutes late, and then you got to games on time.
Yes.
And then some jerk goes like, "Oh, my house just burned down."
You're like,
and then here's an hour's worth of like,
I forfeited what I could have done. I could have done a proper gym session.
That's right. And then you go like, oh, now I'm gonna be stuck listening to this crap.
And I like look at the box, and sometimes like you do that little thing. Like sometimes you start like playing with the box on the table. Maybe you swirl it a little bit, and some people will say, well, anyway, I don't want to bring this down. Let's play the game. You know, sometimes they get it, but sometimes they just don't. And you're sitting there swirling a box on the table. And it's like you're doing some sort of like Cirque du Soleil with the box, and no one wants to segue, but you don't want to be the jerk to segue because someone's talking about like their kitten that died or something.
Yeah, well, you know, cats. They die.
So it's like, yeah, it's just... You know, it's hard. It's hard when people are late. It's also hard when I feel like when I'm late, I try not to be like, okay, hi, like I got to tell you about today. I'm like, I forfeited my chit chat privilege, right?
Well, let's flip it though. How do you feel about people who come there early?
I appreciate people who show up early. You're actually usually a good 10-minute early person.
I am.
You're an early person.
But
I'm used to it. I anticipate. I'm like, okay, Paul's coming in. Like you and Dimitri are both earlies. So I'm now used to it, and I usually build that in. But it can be a little annoying if you're like not ready. But I've never had that issue with you because you come in like at a nice amount early. Like usually everything everything's.
You can call me out now. We're on table scraps here.
No.
This is hard to get.
I will usually tell you like a lot of times the thing that I always wind up doing is trying to like sneak in a workout.
Sure.
Like a Peloton session.
Yeah, no. And
so I will usually tell you like, hey, I'm jumping in the shower real quickly. Yeah. So there's an anticipation that like if you show up early, you may have to wait. But what's bad is someone who shows up like half an hour early.
You have that?
People will there are some people who do that in life. Yeah. And that can be like a little off-putting, but I think it's better I think I will still appreciate the half an hour early person more than the half an hour late person. Because For games, yeah. I think in general,
sure, okay.
That might actually be, although I had one friend who would always show up like, she'd be like, oh, hey, I was in the neighborhood, so I just decided I'd come over now, and be like an hour beforehand. And you're like, no, I have like stuff I need to do.
I have to work out.
I have to work out. I've got to do anything. I've got to do a million things, you know? I got to read the rules for this book.
Sure.
I mean, for the game.
Yep.
So I don't love early. But it doesn't get in the way of the game, though, starting on time. Sure. Or starting in an appropriate time.
Yeah, no, sometimes like I feel that I get there early and I go like, oh, this person isn't ready. And now I've just made things awkward for the next 15 minutes.
I've never felt awkward when you've shown up.
Well, you have very good banter. And
yeah. Well, thank you. I'm like, I have early banter ready to go.
Like, but there,
if you show up early, like you're not going to find me without banter. Like, I will be able to banter with you. But what I might be doing is like cleaning some stuff too.
I find this most happens with introverts. Like we play with introverts, and like if they're not ready to present, because I feel like introverts are like, oh, my life is so big, but I need to go. Hi, and then they go, oh, like that. But like I feel that if I get there too early, they're still in their green room time or what.
Oh, right, they're still in their like the pep talk time.
Yeah, so I try not to be early too much, especially for people who I don't think can handle it. It's weird.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I don't know if anyone can handle me right now.
That's right. Like, hi.
Well, I mean, and it also goes the other way. What's also rough is when there's someone who is not good at banter who shows up early.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And then your stuff like
you're pulling teeth.
And like, in those situations, I always just ask questions and try to pull something out. Or if it's like someone who only talks about themselves, and then you're just sitting there listening to them monologue, which is actually okay, because then you can just do stuff while they're monologuing. Mm-hmm. I don't generally like monologuers, even though I may be monologuing actively on this podcast.
Well, you're a professional monologuer.
I am. But like the thing that I hate the most is when going through the podcast afterwards and doing audio, if I see that I've talked for more than 2 minutes, honestly, even 90 seconds,
Sure.
I'm mortified because I read it in an article in Esquire magazine, like 1995. I was waiting in like the barber shop or whatever. And there was like, here's what we got to say about how you should act in life or whatever. It was like, if you've been talking for 2 minutes, you've been talking for too long. And I was like, that's always stayed with me.
Oh, you do quote that a lot.
I do. And notice I'm stopping myself right now because I'm ready to talk for 2 more minutes about the 2 more minute rule, but I'm stopping myself that way you can get in and say something.
Thank you.
No, I know, but I knew you were going to do that. But the thing is, it's like, the point is, it's not so much that like people can tell stories, people can go on, but you need to provide, entrance ramps into the conversation.
I think in Japanese, like there's this and please, if you are Japanese and I'm completely wrong, don't say anything because it'll embarrass me.
Yeah.
But like I was told that there'll be a pause in the discussion, and if the person who is listening doesn't give an indication, like hey or a nod or some kind of, then that they will stop. As opposed to like,
if there's no indication, I'll keep going.
Yes. So
I love that. I love that. It's like you should get like this sign that says "keep going."
That's right.
Because it's so. Yes, the point is, I'm not here to talk about monologuing, even though I would love to say it. But by the way, pro tip: if you are a monologue, if you hear yourself, and if all anyone has said to you in the past like 2 minutes or longer has been that means it's time to bring it in, close it up. Close it in. So that being said, let me continue my monologue, which is that it is rough when someone comes early and they're not a good conversationalist. If they come early and they're a good conversationalist, you're always happy to see your friends. You're always happy to get that bonus time with your friends, I think.
Like but what if they're your friend who isn't a good conversationalist?
Yeah, that could be an issue.
Or a bummer.
Some people are happy. There are some people, this is just for me. Some people are happy to sort of sit in semi-silence with a friend. I have a friend who's very quiet, and I once went over to his game night, and I was the first one there, and it was like crickets, and I was like trying to come up with conversation, and everything was like, yeah, and I was like, oh God,
that is.
I should have been late to this one.
That would unnerve me.
It's hard. But so here's the reason. So if you get there on time, you run the risk of being the first one there, and then you just have to sit there, and it's awkward.
Yeah.
And it's quiet. But if you show up late, here's the other risk about showing up late. You often forfeit the opportunity to contribute to what the game is going to be played.
And that is an important factor for a lot of people.
Because if you show up even just like, a lot of times it's not even that like you're explicitly banned. It's just like the conversation has already started and you can't really come in and just make a demand right now because you've already been late and the grace period does not necessarily extend towards choice.
That there's a true statement to that. Although in our group, I do feel that that does happen generally.
It can, but there was one time I went to Tom's and I showed up 5 minutes late. Actually, no. Realistically, it was probably 8 minutes late, and we talked about games. And this was like we played Avalon, and then then I was like, let's play some games. And I was like, oh, I brought this game, and Tom was like, no. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you came late, so you don't get to choose a game. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of liked it. I kind of liked that he enforced a rule like that.
That's not a rule.
Way. He enforced. Well, he set.
He set a boundary or
he set a boundary where I know I was like, oh, okay, like I have to, now it's being late is also a choice about something bigger. But I remember also thinking like, damn.
Yeah, no. I think that was silly. He should apologize to you for that.
No, I don't need an apology, but it's just one of those things where like, do you think that's fair for someone to say? Like if you show up late, you can come late, but you're not allowed to have a say in what the game is?
I think you can negotiate the contract of the social contract of your game group. I think that if you're in our group, we play a social deduction oftentimes, or something that will put everyone together because we don't oftentimes have 12-player games. So we'll play something that can bring people together. And if you're late for that, that's annoying, but like whatever. And then there's the great reset of the game night. Okay, what do we play now? And just because you were late for Avalon does not mean you don't get to participate in the great reset.
I know. Well, maybe I'm remembering it wrong because that is so harsh that maybe there was no Avalon that night. Maybe I just was late and the games were like we're doing proper games because that would make much more sense.
Okay, I hope so because like
I hope so. I'm like
because now rather than Tom deserving a you deserve it. Like now Tom deserves an apology.
Like, now that I think about it, actually.
And then Tom took off his laser mask, and oh wait, that might have been a dream.
No, maybe it was all 100% my fault. Well, here's another question about tardiness.
Yeah, someone
knows they're going to be an hour late.
Sure.
And they say, "Listen, I'm going to be an hour late. Do you like I'll come in," or they say something like I'll come in for like the second game or something like that if there's like a multi-game day. What do you think about that? How should that be handled?
If it's a multi-game day, I think if you are not there when game starts, then you either sit and watch and hang out and banter, non-playing banter, or come later when the game starts.
Yeah.
Like I think that is, you do not get to expect like game grace when that's the situation.
Yes.
But usually that's on a weekend or sometime. So
you're really good about that. You're really good at when you have to like insert yourself into the proceedings later. You're really good at, and I feel like I'm saying this not in a pejorative way, but you're good at making yourself small in those moments.
Well,
meaning that like, in those moments, like a lot of times when you're playing and someone shows up, you're like, oh, they're waiting. You suddenly feel this pressure to speed up. And you should, by the way, because a lot of times you give a realistic window. And if someone's waiting, it is rude to keep, even though it's on them, it's rude to keep them waiting.
Yeah.
But what I do like about you is that you're not like a jerk about it. Because some people would be jerks.
Thank you. Like
you're just like what you're like you talk or you do something in the corner or whatever, but like you don't make the people who are already playing feel like shit because they're continuing to play the game they were playing anyway.
Like it's one of those things that is very simple, right? Like if you want to hang out with your friends, then you hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know that sounds like really kindergarten-y, like like there was a book like in the 90s, like everything I learned in kindergarten kind of thing.
Okay.
And so like it's just this dumb little book but like it's like, hey, be nice, like just hang out. It's not always about you. Sometimes you don't get what you want.
If you show up for like you show up, there's a game in progress and you're like inserting yourself in for the second game. So you were late to the start of the day, but because you've now had to sit maybe like 30 minutes or 35 or maybe even longer, is there an expectation that you get a little bit more deference in terms of what the next game choice is?
Is there the expectation?
Because you're late, but you've also been the one who's had to wait. You're in a paradoxical situation where you're late, but you've been waiting for everyone.
I think that like you use a good word, like what's my expectation? The answer is I expect that people would consider my my feelings and thoughts in an appropriate amount of way. And I don't misunderstand me. I might not get what I want to play. Okay. But that does not mean that like my waiting wasn't modified.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like I think in our game group, you will not play every game you want every day.
No.
And so if you can't get to the place in your mind where you go like, oh, some days I'm going to get disappointed about playing the game that I want, it doesn't mean that I have to be disappointed in that game night. If you can't get to that point, you're going to be frustrated.
It's like, here's what I can imagine. I can imagine coming in and like waiting for people to finish their game. And I'm like, I'm happy as can be for a while. I'm doing like New York Times, crosswords or a spelling bee or something. I'm on the internet, I'm having a grand old time. I can be very happy with that. But then at a certain point, I can see myself being like a little annoyed. And then when it ends, I can see myself being like, hey, can we play this game? Because I can see myself building up this thing of like,
oh, I've seen it.
yeah, being like, I kind of want to play a game, like I want to do this thing now. And I can see myself getting a little salty if I felt like I was not heard in some way in that moment. On the flip side, I can also imagine playing a game and the game wraps up and the person who's been waiting is like salty and they just want to play some game and that like no one else really wants to play, but it gets played because they're salty. And I can imagine saying to myself, why are you you're the one who showed up late to this whole thing and now you're mad at us, because we want to play something else.
Humans are complicated. No, I mean, like,
I can imagine that like as like trying to find that thing. I think a good thing to do would be maybe if you show up late, and you're going to have an indeterminate amount of waiting around, because a lot of times it always feels like, oh, we're 10 minutes away, 10 minutes away, and then it's like 45 minutes because everyone's been maxing their last turns.
Yep.
But I think maybe something would be to say, hey, I don't know how long this is going to take, but like, why don't we talk about what the next game is going to be? So if need be, I can start reading the rules, or that might be a time to propose. So that way it's like everyone's mentally prepared, or like maybe like when someone first walks in, that's like when you set the expectations of what maybe the next game might be.
Maybe, but like, what if you don't know? What if everyone and more importantly, what if the people are in the middle of the game? They go, I don't have the bandwidth to think about what next game. I can't project what's going to happen in the next 45, hour and a half. But really, it really comes like everything as I get older, I realize that humans are social creatures. Yes. I think people want the benefit of getting what they want, but they want everyone else to want what they want too. And I think that is a trap. I think that as you get older, you either accept and move on and grow from that, or you throw your staff into the sand and go, you shall not pass. And and then eventually you get stuck. But like, for all of it, I try to hang out with people who aren't jerks.
Yes.
Who are not selfish.
Yes.
I don't always succeed in that.
Yeah. Well,
it
happens.
And some people say like, it's because you want to be the alpha jerk, Paul. I do. That is absolutely true. If I am the max jerkness of our group, the group is doing well.
Right. I feel that way.
But like, so in that case, like, you would think that everyone would have reasons for wanting what they want. And if you can assume benevolence in those instances, I think things work out. Things tend to work out. Like in our group, things work out for me because I want to play with my friends. Yeah. I don't really care what we play, and therefore I will never get to play SETI.
You've yet to play SETI.
That's right.
I mean, maybe just the answer is that if someone has to insert themselves into, like, you're sort of like trying to jump onto a train that's already moving, right? When you come in late to like a multi-game day, and like maybe the real salvo is play like some sort of light game for 15 minutes, a silly game that's like big on laughter, like almost like a party game, not even a filler game. I would say like a party game to get people laughing, like a three of a kind, a wavelength, just one, something like that like gets laughter going. So if there's any sort of like tension, either residual from the game or from whoever's been waiting or whatever, like maybe use that to kind of like hit a reset tonally.
A great reset.
Yeah. So rather than like, what's the next game, etc. Because you know what the worst is too? When you insert yourself in, you've waited, and now you're ready to play a chunky game. Because it's like, a lot of times it's not a malicious thing. A lot of times it's like someone says, hey, we're going to play games all day. And you're like, great, count me in. I can be there starting at 12.
Yep.
It's not it's not even late. It's like, that's the expectation.
Yeah.
And the worst is when you insert yourself in to like that. And then after that first game that you weren't able to participate in, people are like, I think I'm kind of shot. I think I'm like kind of done for the day, or I'm kind of done with this, or I'm like, I don't know if I really have the, and then you're like, but
I was here.
I was on time for when I said I would be here. And now
that
is the worst.
Yeah. And you're going to get those days.
All the time.
Like
actually, every single time it happens, I think. Someone's drained from the first game.
Yeah, and they go. And we don't play with them. And here's the hot take. Here's the hard truth.
Okay.
The hard truth is like
the table scrap.
Yeah, here's the scrap that like I don't know if people are ready to hear this, but like really, there are some people who will be able to get to play the games that they want. They'll come in and they'll go like, "Hey, let's play this game," and people will say, and some people will do exact same thing, and the answer will be no. And this like there is a game table charisma factor.
Oh,
it is. Like some people are more preferred than others. Hot take. I'm sorry.
Wow, we're getting to some truths now. We just started talking about being 10 minutes late, and now we're getting some truths here.
The truth is, like, some people can be 10 minutes late, and they're going to be forgiven.
Yeah,
and some people are not.
Wow.
And that is a hard fact, you know.
Well, because if we're gonna dig deeper. The reason why is because ultimately, when it comes to relationships, people are always developing social capital, or they're either gaining it or they're spending it.
100%.
And usually, if you don't have that table charisma thing that you're talking about, it's usually because they've spent a lot of social capital. And so, if you show up 10 minutes late, there's nothing left in the bank.
100%.
So that's why they're not gonna there won't be anyone standing for it.
No.
But if you're like a Paul Satachet, who has just like stacks of Scrooge McDuck levels of social capital, just diving into it, you can show up late without a problem.
It is, well, you know, like I can even theoretically screw up a podcast and blame a dog, and people.
You have a lot of social capital, it turns out.
But you know, that's the true. The true is basically you are going to be somewhere. Like, I think there's a lot of people when they play board games. Once again, another hot take. I apologize, people.
Yeah,
you know, like,
do it.
Is that like they're afraid of the hierarchy. They're going like, I don't want to be at the bottom of the hierarchy in the game group. Otherwise, I might be survivored, cut out.
Oh yeah.
And then like when they act weird, we act as if like there is no survivor aspect to this. Just be normal. But the truth is there is. The truth is what the truth is. The reality though is it's not as severe as most people think it is, who are in that fear-based thing.
Right.
Like but like I have found that being in a giving state, like, you know, just emotionally generous helps your social capital. And those who are fearful of, you know, I'm not gonna get to play the game I want, or I'm going to be put at the small table, like the kids table or whatever. What happens there is like, they're really thirsty to hang out with the high charisma, high capital people. It sounds terrible. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm really sorry.
No, it's we're being very raw. It's a raw podcast about board games,
and then it gets worse.
What happens? Because the thirstiness is what thirsty. When you're thirsty, you actually really go into your social capital. It's like a board game. It's like you know, there's like certain games where you amass wealth and then you have to buy it, and like, you know, there's certain actions. It's like, well, this is not like you want to use a card to do this action. That's the best way to do it. But you could just do the action like terraforming Mars. You could just do it. You just pay a big cost. And when you're thirsty, it's like you're paying. You're
paying that asteroid money.
Yeah. When you're thirsty, you're like playing terraforming Mars, and you're just actively just building a forest instead of finding a discount through a card.
It's rough, and I get it.
No, because you're right. Because when you are chill and you're happy with whoever you play with and whatever game it is and whatever the situation is, that expresses a certain amount of confidence actually in who you are and what you expect out of the evening. And people are drawn to confidence, and that's how you can really up your social capital. You know, and that's how you are able to afford to do things like run, you know, 10 minutes late a little bit.
Like the person we talk about, like who are sometimes chronically 45 minutes late to your games.
Yes.
That person has a lot of capital.
They have a lot of social capital.
And so...
Because here's how they bring it back, which is that when you game with them, they're really fun at the table. Like
100%.
their banter is good. They're just fun, and so
And they brought bagels.
They brought bagels,
and so like so it's like
and there's like it's. I still don't love. I don't love the
100%.
lateness. Don't love the lateness, but they are helped by having good social capital.
And so I look at it and I often.
But
yeah, go for it.
But I have a friend who always is 30 minutes to 40 minutes, and he has tremendous social capital. Love him. Everyone loves him. He's so fun to play with. He's so lovely. I just adore this person.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always late, and I actually find myself I actually get annoyed because I feel like there's a different, that person and the other person we're talking about, I don't know, there is a difference in the expression of the lateness. Whereas I think the snacks are more important than they sound. The reason why is
immensely important, but
because sometimes I don't even eat the snacks, but it shows a level of care.
100%.
Whereas the other friend, they're always like, oh, I just came, sorry, I was just finishing up this, or, oh, I was just finishing up that. And it's like, because it happens so reliably every single time, you get the sense like, oh, you actually just don't care about my time at all.
100%. Like the bagels or cookies or whatever basically say, I messed up. I'm taking accountability.
Yeah.
This is my way of taking accountability. I'm sorry. It's a version of I'm sorry. I don't mean to disrespect your time.
And I realize this is the same podcast where I just talked about how like me showing up 10 minutes
Dimitri,
me showing up 10 minutes late.
Screw you too.
At dinner is totally okay. I know I gave myself an excuse because I'm a human. I have to be able to let myself off the hook. Otherwise, I have to live with my decisions.
Oh my God.
I don't want to have to live with the fact that I might be a chronically tardy person. That's not acceptable. So therefore, it's listen, there's anything I have to do before 6 o'clock, I'm allowed to be 10 minutes late too. In regards to a game night that starts at 8 o'clock, I will still stand by that, even though I realize why I'm a hypocrite in this situation.
It's okay.
But I think
because that's social capital.
Social capital. But I do think that like if you are 30 minutes late, like if game night's at 7 and if you are going to show up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, or God forbid 8:15, you have to, that's inconsiderate.
That's
and we're going to say no, ma'am. Not even, it's not, whether it's a lady, a man, non-binary, whatever, I'm still just going to say, no, ma'am. I don't care who it is. I don't care what your gender expression is. No, ma'am.
That's right. I see it.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, ma'am. Okay.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
But like, I should say it in the best way. Like, we wound up playing games for years. It works out. You'll figure out your balance. I will say this though, like, because I've been thinking about social capital a lot. It's this, I think it's a lot more important than people think. And I think when you put yourself in autopilot and you're not really considering how you're interacting with the group, I think that's where you start losing social capital. And I go like, oh, there you go. This is bad. Like I'm not like counting all my like my social capital chits. Like that's not. But
you have so many. I mean, it would take forever.
Scrooge McDuck. But like,
you do have a huge amount of social capital.
Thank you.
Crazy. It's crazy.
But what I do find is like I look at the situation and go like, oh, this person is losing stake in the eyes of the group. Yeah. They may or may not know it. And it's like, oh, like this is rough.
It's rough. Well, better not be late. If there's one thing you can do,
that's right.
Just don't be late.
Don't be late. That
unless it's to a fast casual restaurant
in Culver City,
like
6:30.
It's around 6:30.
That's right.
When you have to drive through traffic.
Like that's.
I guess everyone has to drive through traffic.
That's the most understandable. I've been told that like between Hollywood and Culver City is the most trafficked. The world.
Say,
it was
I
like,
can tell you.
It was like Culver City to Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood to Culver City, like Beijing.
Yeah, Bangkok.
It's so
that drive. And then I will say this, like, and this is my last point because I feel like we're trying to end this, but I keep on bringing up new points. one of my real fatal flaws is this. If going from point A to point B on average takes 30 minutes, and if I have a day where something like the seas parted, all the lights were great, no traffic, and I get there in 20 minutes, in my mind, for the rest of my life,
Optimist.
it always takes 20 minutes. And it does not matter that every single time it takes 30 minutes.
That's
in my
right.
mind, I'm like, that's a 20-minute drive.
I love it. I love it.
And that really screws me over a lot. That I can't get out of my I don't know why I do that to myself.
Because you're an optimist or delusional, however you want to frame it. But it's
there's something weird in my house, which is there's a
little door that goes in John Malkovich's brain.
There is a time, like a space-time continuum, which is okay. I have to be there in 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's 6:00. Let's say I have to be there. By the way, it only takes 30 minutes or so to get to Culver City normally. On a Friday, it takes 45 minutes. But then when I pick you up, that actually adds time to it as well. So,
oh my God, it's my fault.
I'm dragging you in.
Sorry.
I'm dragging you in.
So sorry.
No. What that means though is I do have to it goes into like the 5:30. It gets to like 5:30 when you're like, oh my God, it's 5:30. So I am dragging you into it, Paul. I'm going to spend my social capital to do that.
I love it. I love it.
You know why? You know why? Because it's fun.
That's right.
No, but what I was going to say is I have some sort of weird like vortex down here, which is that if I have to be somewhere 30 minutes, I'd be like, okay, let's say it's 5:28. I need to be somewhere at 6:00. I'm going to start walking. I'm going to put on my shoes, walk downstairs, go to my car. And I've done it. It's 5:28. It's 2 minutes to do that whole process. I will have days where I walk downstairs, put on my shoes, get in the car, and it is 5:42. And I'm like, what happened? It was 5:28 before. Where did that time go? What happened?
I mean, like, I'm not a person who really talks about this, but like the Grand Canyon, Sedona, California, Ben's garage, like, there's vortexes.
I think there's a vortex.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think this is my fault.
I'm saying it is not your fault.
Yes, thank you. I think there's something out there.
That's right.
It's like a mini.
The truth is out there, man. The truth is out there.
But you know what? It's like an adorable little vortex that's like, no. Just taking away for like 14 minutes.
That's right.
We're gonna send you to another dimension of like 14 quick minutes.
I bet you
put you back.
What it'll do is it'll take the 14 minutes, it'll give it to you at the end of your life, and you'll have like this banked time
vortex.
Like,
my vortex,
Ben, you're supposed to die at this age, but because you were next to the vortex, you have like a bank of another 5 years.
Well, what's great is that like there's a multiverse out there where I just show up for 14 minutes at a time, and people never know when it is, and they're like, because I don't remember I don't know what's going on in that other dimension. It doesn't stay with me, but I'm clearly going there.
Well, obviously, I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, like that's where we've gotten Jennifer Lawrence to come to our work.
That's right. I met Jennifer Lawrence in the other dimension, and
that's right.
It didn't go well. I tried to bring her in to the vortex, but then I was like,
"Did you try Wingspan?"
I tried, but then she was going to come to the vortex, and I realized, wait, I'm just bringing Jennifer Lawrence into my garage. That's not. It's cool.
Different.
That's not going to impress her. Like Jennifer Lawrence, I know we were at a glamorous party a second ago, but now we're standing next to my Kia.
Just so you know, we didn't just there's a whole section in like Table Scraps Part 1. We're just not crazy. Okay.
I told some friends. I had dinner with some friends the other night, and they're like, "Oh, so like I was telling them, oh yeah, I started doing this thing called Table Scraps." I said, "Yeah, we did a podcast. We talked about we're just like chatty, we talked about board games that Julia Roberts' characters would like." And they're like, "Oh, that's kind of funny." And it's like, and then we sort of got on the side thing about like, if you saw Jennifer Lawrence at like, how would you get her to be part of your game group, and like, what would you say, and how would you get her into gaming? And it was crickets. Everyone, all my like intelligent friends just stared at me like,
in the version of like, first of all, you've just flushed a lot of capital.
That was a lot,
and also not okay.
It's a lot of cool cred. I flushed down the toilet. But I think we did it. I think we covered it. So this is fun.
And if we record, it might be actually on video.
I mean, I think it's recorded today. It looks
hopefully,
like it's recorded.
Hopefully, I'm hoping for it too.
But you know what I feel so bad about, Paul? Looking at it right now.
What's that?
I feel like I'm like reasonably well framed, but like you talk. Like
hello.
Look how low you are.
Oh, that's okay. Like I'm a little munchkin.
Don't worry, because you sit high on social capital.
Booyah!
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah.
I don't know how we end this.
Table scraps. Table scraps.
Damn it.
We'll figure out something. It'll be mwah.
It'll be so good.
It'll be chef's kiss. Not today, but like later,
so
guys.
fun. So fun. It's great work.
Okay, or bye everyone.
Or just bye.
Bye. Table scraps.